Before we start, I would like to present you our space video. Thomas, please.
Heart of Europe. But our vision and ambition is not limited to our own land. We have been space enthusiasts for a long time. In 1929, a Slovenian rocket engineer and a pioneer of astronautics, Herman Orlov, wrote a visionary book, The Problem of Space Travel, The Rocket Motor. Since then, Slovenian science and industry have been developing new solutions for exploring the universe. In 2017, Slovenia established the Herman Orlov Center of Space Technologies. The center works on the promotion of space technologies and the manifestation of human achievements in space with the interweaving of art and high technologies. In 2016, Slovenia joined the space nations by concluding an association agreement with the European Space Agency and is planning to become a full ESA member by 2024. Slovenian companies are engaging in various fields of the space industry with a special focus on specialized niche products and services. In September 2020, the first Slovenian satellites, Evo HD and ESA, were launched into space. Slovenia is a home of smart and advanced technologies that are the result of Slovenian knowledge. We are developing hardware and software for large-scale and complex systems which must be measured. We are home to the world's leading provider of control and measuring systems for the most complex machines, now bringing their excellent knowledge into the space sector. We are developing complex nano-micro-scale platforms with fault-tolerant features that can be used in new space constellations. We are improving materials and developing new parts with lower mass and the same strength for space industry that can be used in the harsh space environment. We have become a global leader in the field of air-supported structures technology. The company which produces radiomes that protect transportable antenna systems and is also exploring constructions of habitats on Mars. Slovenia attaches particular importance to Earth observation. We have satellite imagery processing services that contribute to fighting climate change and developing solutions for managing spatial data for supporting land administration and agriculture processes. We use space technology and data to provide important solutions, useful data of water bodies, land cover changes, built-up areas, and other solutions for piped water systems in rural environments. All of this data is being used to facilitate environmental protection and support green, sustainable development, which is very much in line with one of Slovenia's priorities, sustainable development. As part of ESA's human spaceflight and robotic exploration programs, we conduct bed-rest studies of the effect of weightlessness on the human body. In 2021, an upgraded short-arm human centrifuge was transferred to the Planica Nordic Center. All the mentioned amazing achievements are only the most notable ones. In recent years, space activities have been increasingly becoming the focus of industry and research institutions. Slovenia's ambition is to involve new companies in space activities, working hand-in-hand with research institutions and universities, and will actively pursue activities to raise the recognition of the space sector in the future.
Torej, lepo pozdravljeni še enkrat na predstavitvi osnutka prve slovenske nacionalne vesoljske strategije. Osnutek strategije je že objavljen na spletni strani Ministrstva za gospodarstvo, turizem in šport. In ta predstavitev je tudi del javne obravnave tega pomembnega dokumenta. Vaše konstruktivne komentarje, pripombe pričakujemo do 30. maja. Veseli me, da ste prišli v takem številu, sploh iz tako raznolikih področij, od gospodarstva do akademskega sektorja in seveda tudi ministrstev. Now I would like to switch to English, as English is a space language. And we have also international guests in the audience. So today's presentation is focused on the draft space strategy, which is one of the goals to achieve a full membership within ESA. Today we have interesting guests with us, starting with the State Secretary, Mr. Mateusz Frangas, who is responsible for space at our ministry. We have Mr. Gordon Campbell from European Space Agency, and at least but not last, we have Thomas Tange, our partner in crime, who prepared with us the draft space strategy. Now I would like to invite Mr. Mateusz Frangas to say a few words. Please.
Thank you, Tanya. Today we are starting a journey towards first Slovenian space strategy, and we would like to have a very fruitful and deep discussion about this with this what we call the Slovenian space ecosystem. The most important achievement of Tanya Permoser and her team is actually a strong ecosystem of companies, research institutions, labs that evolved into strong partnership to use all the opportunities space provides. Human race have always looked up to the sky to find answers. Where are we coming from? What is the deep meaning of our existence? Especially, what is our future? Slovenia has a strong ambition. We say, and this maybe embodies the ambition of our Slovenian space strategy, that Slovenia is small on Earth, but would like to be big in space. This is only possible if we will continue the dynamics Slovenian space industry showed so far. That's why last year, on the ministerial meeting of European Space Agency, we decided to nearly double our subscriptions in ESA programs and do also enlarge opportunities of Slovenian space industry to use these programs to develop new answers, new programs, new projects, new products, new solutions for problems we face. We already see champions of Slovenian economy that are sitting in this room, and when we are presenting the pioneers of Slovenian economy, we often name companies, research institutions that are a part of the Slovenian space ecosystem. On April 1st, a new unit for space came to life under Tanya's excellent leadership, Slovenian Space Office. This year, we would like to use all opportunities to prepare ourselves for Slovenian full membership in European Space Agency that we want to achieve next year. Slovenian Space Agency is a fundamental step in this direction. Thank you for coming to Slovenia once again, and thanks to you and all your colleagues for really excellent support to our space team in achieving this goal. And of course, thank you, Thomas, for preparing an excellent draft of Slovenian space strategy that we would like to discuss with you today and in following weeks to visualize our space goals as a nation and to prepare all necessary pathways in order to achieve them until 2030. We strongly believe that Slovenian space industries are at the heart of our national ambition to double the added value of our economy in the same time period until 2030. we are somehow empowered by great results this ecosystem is already achieving in space. And now, with new subscriptions, a new generation of programs, with new programs also to be involved in, we hope this ambition come to life. I would really like to thank Tanya for her excellent leadership, for her team provides to this ecosystem, and we often see this ecosystem also as an example how to build partnerships between research institutions, economy and the state to fulfill and all the opportunities the time provides in sense of chips, all the opportunities that are open within the European industrial plan for net zero age, and other fields, artificial intelligence, defense industries, etc. Where we see more example of this strong ecosystem as the best way to build this partnership and seize these opportunities. Thank you very much.
Thank you, State Secretary, for your wise and nice words. Now I would like to invite Mr. Gordon Campbell from the European Space Agency. Gordon, please.
Good morning, everybody, and thank you for the invitation to be present at this introduction to the Slovenian space strategy. Just a few words from the ESA perspective here. Firstly, I mean, we've seen Slovenia is already doing an awful lot in space. It's really impressive what Slovenia is doing already. I mean, you're very visible in ESA. You have a very strong industrial sector, very strong companies in particular domains. You're covering most of the space domains anyway, which for a small country is extremely impressive. Why do we need a space strategy? I think the first reason why do you need a space strategy is consider the lessons learned from another small country that's been in ESA for quite a bit longer than Slovenia, is Norway. Okay, Norway is more or less similar amount of population, etc. But Norway were very focused. They had a strategy right from the start. They said, we're worried about the Arctic. We want to have, we see a massive opportunity for our ground station network, selling commercial services for ground station services, etc., through Svalbard. We're worried about Arctic, we're worried about maritime security, fisheries protection. And that was their strategy. They focused on that. And Norway is really one of the big successes of some of the original countries inside ESA. Slovenia can do the same. But again, I mean, without a strategy, all of these impressive things are impressive in their own right, but how does it add up to everybody moving forward in the same direction to achieve goals and objectives that everybody's bought into? The strategy provides a framework for that to be realised and for that to be expanded upon as well. With clear strategy, clear objectives, clear benefits that everybody's bought into, it's easier to go for more public funding, and it's an easier framework for industry to understand how to invest and bring the private sector in there as well. So it's absolutely fantastic having a formal strategy, and as was mentioned before, it's a very important step for moving from associate member to full member status inside ESA. It's also easier for us as ESA, if you know what you want and it's all written down, it's easier for us to understand how your participation in ESA can be optimised and how we can make sure you get value for money with your contributions to ESA. There's nothing worse than a country saying, oh, we don't know what we want, we'll maybe do a bit of human space flight, we'll maybe do a bit of Earth observation. You know what you want. It's great. So having that, it means every euro coming in, we can make sure it's optimised, it's against a clear agenda, and it's very clear what success looks like. And it's also very easy, it's much more straightforward for us to understand as ESA, how else can we help? How can we use our international reach as something you can leverage as Slovenia to achieve clear goals and objectives? How can we use our connection with other domains, etc. So all of that is really possible with a strategy. What can we do with this strategy now? And as you'll see, there's the strategy is based on a number of pillars with cross-cutting lines. That gives us a clear technical agenda and technical priorities for development and outcomes to be addressed. How do we connect science and education with space applications? How do we make sure that the appropriate or the necessary level of education and educated personnel are there to support the entrepreneurs when their businesses are expanding? How do we connect all these things up in a coherent way? The strategy gives us a formal basis for enabling that. And it also gives us a formal basis and a much more a clear basis for understanding how do we connect space to other sectors? What are we looking for when we say we want to connect space to AI, or we want to connect space to robotics or other high technology sectors? With a strategy and with what you'll see later, there's really initial priorities that just are obvious from how the strategy is elaborated, and we can work towards there's medium-term goals that are also clear that I think we can clearly work towards them as well. For example, how do we connect, or what's the contribution of space investments to the digital transition and the green transition that we're all looking to achieve over the next 20 years or so. So it's absolutely fundamental. Congratulations on this. Next steps, we would like to see how do we connect a space strategy to the other government strategies of other government departments, so that everything's joined up. In somewhere like Slovenia, that's hopefully easier than somewhere like France or Germany, where you've got multiple layers. Hopefully everybody's all friends, and it's easier to connect. Like say, how do you connect to the Ministry of Economy as well? What's the overall role of the space sector in the overall economic development policy for Slovenia? How are you going to connect to the agricultural policy and the environmental policy? How are you going to connect to transport policy, etc.? So all of these things are much clearer when you have a strategy, and hopefully these guys have a strategy as well. Also connecting at international level as well, and into government institutions like the UN, like your international development aid, foreign policy, etc. With a clear strategy, you've got a clear basis to connect to the guys in these other activities, and they understand more where you're coming from. And it's much easier to put concrete things in place. So you're already working, for example, with the international development aid guys. There's, I think, Geocodis have some activity there. So you're already starting, and hopefully that can continue. And hopefully, we've got again a basis for having an even stronger space industry in even more domains. So even stronger in space science, even stronger in Earth observation, even stronger in telecoms, and that's all connected back to the education system and the research system as well. So it lets you have a clear idea of what does success look like, and a clear idea of how do you achieve that, what are the steps to that success, and a clear idea of how do you get the maximum benefit, and how do we work with you to get maximum benefit from your participation in ESA. So congratulations on the draft strategy. We look forward to even more fruitful cooperation than we've had for the last 10 years or so. Thank you.
Thank you, Gordon. And before I give the floor to Thomas, let me just mention that European Space Agency is our prime partner, besides the European space programs. And we are also building the close cooperation on bilateral basis with some countries like France, like Germany, like Italy. With Italy, we have already signed the letter of intent to enhance this cooperation. Next week, we are going to United States. It's going to be a space delegation at a space symposium. It's the first time we have this kind of meetings, and we also meet some big companies, US companies, and also NASA. So we would also like to widen our space ecosystem, not only to the EU level, but also globally. So now I give the floor to Thomas.
Thank you very much to everybody being here, and also thank you for the previous introductions by the previous speakers. It makes my life a little easier. because we've learned why Slovenia has embarked on this strategy process and is presenting today the draft space strategy to you. As was mentioned, Slovenia has already leadership in some certain specific domains in the space industry, and we want to make sure that we strengthen those and that we create new ones. And that's really the purpose of this strategy. And so we started already in December 2021, and we've worked really together with everyone, with other ministries, with the industry, and of course with the Space Office to develop this strategy. And what we hope to achieve with this strategy is really to bring the agility that you have as a small nation on Earth to make it big in space. And so we hope that the strategy will set the tone for this future ambition. Now, maybe to zoom out a little bit, why are we actually looking at space? Why is space so important today? As you see here, the space industry today is about 400 billion in revenues, and it's poised to grow to 1 trillion by 2040. Still, you might think this is not such a big industry. So why is space so important for so many governments around the world? Because we see that there's many new players entering space. Albania just launched its first satellite in January and can call itself now among the spacefaring nations. We see governments increasing spending on space, and we see big tech companies entering the space market. We have a few logos here: Amazon, Google, Microsoft. All these companies are in space. So why is that? Space is important because it just not unlocks the space industry, it unlocks a lot of economy or benefits to the wider economy. Space is an enabling technology, it's enabling data, enabling information that helps many other application domains. And that's why space has such a return on investment. So the industry itself might not be the largest industry, but it impacts all industries in the economy. Further, it drives technological innovation, as space is about deep tech, it's frontier tech, so it helps drive innovation, again, that brings spillover effects all across the economy. And then lastly, or thirdly better, it enhances our understanding of planet Earth. We know with climate change, planet Earth needs to be monitored carefully. Space data is the only way to, at a global scale, monitor Earth and see the evolution of our climate over a period of decades. And then lastly, space is an attractive area. It's very aspirational, so that means space is a great tool for outreach, and that means that if you want to increase the number of students in STEM education, for example, space is a very inspiring technological area, and hopefully will inspire people to choose for STEM education. Certainly not all of them will end up in the space sector, but at least for countries it has the benefit to have more engineers, more scientists that are working for society and the economy. Now, why can Slovenia play a role here? What's the right win for Slovenia? Well, Slovenia has already an ecosystem of established space players that are actually doing quite well. We've heard it from the colleague Elisa. Slovenia has early champions, and it has more champions. Why is that? It boasts on a strong academic sector. There's a lot of research institutes that generate a lot of technology. And Slovenia knows how to collaborate. And in space, this is really important. In space, you need to work with other member states, whether ESA member states, EU member states, or beyond. So everybody needs to work together. One of the new things about space, the new space revolution, the third, fourth space wave, depending on who you ask, is really about governments, industry, and the academic sector working together hand in hand, but also on an international level. Slovenia as well has strong innovation support capabilities. You have a thriving startup ecosystem. Also in space, startups are really important and really bring new disruptive technologies on the market that really foster what is called this new space revolution. And almost last, we have, there's a strong expertise in Slovenia in what we call Industry 4.0 technologies. Think artificial intelligence, high performance computing, and these things are equally relevant for space. Space is one of the largest data sources that exist. It's the fourth largest data source, if I'm not mistaken. And that means you need big data, HPC, AI to make something useful and extract information out of this massive data. And then lastly, Tanya and the team have been working on establishing these relationships with other international industrial players, and that can help Slovenian industry to really build on that and play a meaningful role in an international setting. So in short, we believe Slovenia has really a role to play in space, and the strategy kind of solidifies the work that has already been done in the past years, and it has been successful, and has really sharpened that to have a clear vision also for the future. Now, how do we went about the strategy? I'll just be very short on this. Basically, it's a top-down, bottom-up analysis that we've done. Top-down are, of course, the aspirations that come from the government. Bottom-up, we mapped the Slovenian space industry. We've interviewed many of you, so you might remember the call that we had over the last, sometime in the last year. We've done industry and ministerial workshops to validate our initial thinking, and lastly, there was also validation by external experts. And that has led to the draft space strategy, which is now open for public consultation. So what are these government aspirations? Maybe I'm kicking in an open door, but it's about the green digital transition, entrepreneurship and innovation, education, and raising the scientific profile of Slovenia. You see on the slide, it's a little bit small, but you shouldn't really be able to read it. What we've done is we mapped all the technical capabilities that are existing today in space, and not unimportantly, also outside of space. And because a lot of technology from space comes also from outside the space sector, and we have a spin in the space sector. So we mapped space and non-space companies, their capabilities, along the ESA technology tree, which is the columns. And what we really see is that there's like some pockets of excellence where Slovenia is already very strong. I'm thinking Industry 4.0 technologies, HPC, AI, for example, Earth observation applications, and also RF and data acquisition technologies. So this was the bottom-up analysis that led to understanding what is Slovenia good in, what could Slovenia be good in the future. Now then we have had, as I mentioned, we've had the workshops. We had more than 40 individual interviews. We had joint workshops together with you and with the other ministries. And here you see the names of the experts that were also consulted. Chiara Manfletti, for example, set up the Portuguese Space Agency, and she was in the cabinet of the previous ESA DG, for example. We have space technology experts and SATCOM experts. Now let's get to the core of the strategy. The strategy, to just give you a little bit of an overview, the strategy is built of a vision. What do we want to achieve? A mission, how are we going to achieve it? And then breaking that down in strategic pillars, short to medium term policy objectives, and then guiding principles that help us choose which concrete initiatives we can undertake to achieve this vision. Now, what is the vision? Slovenian space strives to expand the boundaries of knowledge and innovation, inspiring a green, digital, and sustainable future. Not unimportantly, how do we want to achieve that? Well, we want to position ourselves as an agile space economy. Agility is a strength for a country like Slovenia. It's a benefit that it's easy for government and industry to work together. It's a strength that the academic sector is involved in the process, and that there's collaboration potential international. So that's really what this agility means. It's to foster innovation and technological development. We want to build technology that is leading in specific markets. We don't want to just play along with what the others are doing, because we want to raise the profile of Slovenia globally. Now, what's very important in such a strategy, and what you see what is really effective in other countries, is that this is in close collaboration with the industry. So that's why also the industry is in our mission statement. Slovenian businesses are taking steps to making their mark on the international landscape, but with local expertise. Now, this is we need to break this down further, because this still doesn't help you very much understanding what the specific things that we're going to do. So if we break it down into strategic pillars, it's really about building space technology with a commercial potential. And we're also thinking about developing new areas. Space is already, some space companies are already leading in their field in Slovenia. We want to also create new areas of expertise. One could be, for example, in satellite communication. We want to broaden our participation in the international space exploration, whether it's human or robotic space exploration. We will not be sending somebody to the moon, but already today, Slovenian space technologies are participating in international human space exploration missions. And we want to further broaden this, because also space exploration, for those that are not familiar with the space sector, have very large spillover effects. Think about new materials, think about robotics, for example. These are technology areas that have a strong impact on other areas of the economy. And then thirdly, we want to foster the uptake of space applications. And so the satellites generate data and information, and we want to make sure that this data information is leveraged for strong commercial and sustainable future. So that's really fostering the use of the data in a very commercial way, building businesses with the data that is made available, sometimes even for free, by the European space programs, for example. And important there, and I mentioned it before, is to leverage this new technologies such as HPC and AI. Now, we also want to promote the future generation of scientists and engineers, so that's encouraging the STEM uptake, which is really important for our country, and strengthening the university curricula. And then the last element is to stimulate entrepreneurship. I mentioned space startups are a key source of innovation and disruption in the sector today. And so it's really important to foster them through dedicated space innovation programs, whether that's using the existing infrastructure, innovation infrastructure of Slovenia, or new. Now, if you want to break down the vision a little bit more, and you think about how do we choose projects along these pillars, and that's what Gordon said. You have the pillars, and then you have the cross-cutting horizontal axis. It's important for Slovenia that the projects that it's undertaking at least are supporting one of these three elements of the vision. And the first one is the green aspect. And what does that mean? Space can help not just the monitoring of policies of the government, but also help with the development of new policies. Similarly, space helps companies to be more green, so it can help any economic activity that is undertaken, whether it's monitored by the government or monitored by the industry itself. Space can help to understand what is sustainability. For example, ESG monitoring nowadays is very important for many corporates, and space data plays an essential role in being able to monitor some of these, or is sometimes the only data source for some of these parameters in ESG monitoring. Digitization is important, both in the government, both in the private industry. Space data, space connectivity is sometimes the only way to digitize certain industries. I think a very known example is agriculture. Space really helps to digitize agriculture with precision agriculture using Galileo, so satellite navigation or Earth observation with Copernicus data. And the third aspect is having a clear commercial potential. And this is really important. The space strategy is really focused on having commercial output from space. And space today, with the new space revolution, is no longer a government business. It is a commercial business, and the role of the government is to really foster and enable companies to be active and be competitive globally. So that's why projects also need to have a clear commercial potential. So this is in essence what is in the document. It's described a bit more at length than the time that we have available here, but so you can read the document and understand some of these aspects maybe in more depth. We're also here for any question you may have, or you can have bilaterals with the Space Office. But today we also wanted to give you a glimpse of, what does that mean in terms of short-term programs. We've developed using these principles, the vision, the mission, the strategic pillars and the guiding principles. We've developed a tool for the ministry to assess where and which projects to undertake on a more concrete basis. And it's an impact and feasibility matrix. And basically, you see, we look at impact of any activity that's undertaken. We look at the feasibility. Feasibilities, for example, what's the budget? What is the current technological state? And if we map all these things out, we can basically decide which of these elements or which of these programs we want to implement. And I have a next slide where you see the programs in detail. This is just to help you understand the methodology. So that also if you're from the industry or you're from an academic institution and you want to understand what is important for within this space strategy, you have the vision, mission, strategic pillars, the guiding principles, but also your program needs to be realistic and needs to have an impact. And that's what this tool helps us to do. So we came up with a very long list of potential strategic plays for Slovenia and what Slovenia could do in the future. And these plays really correspond to everything that I've said before. So it's leveraging existing and having new RDI programs for the development of space-qualified commercial products. And again, I want to stress this can be including from spin-in from non-space industries. So we want to also engage the non-space technological base that is present in Slovenia. We want to strengthen the emerging competence that Slovenia has in RF components. We want to embark on international space exploration research and missions to the lunar surface and beyond. Again, not Slovenian astronauts, but rather technology and products that are already today flying towards the moon. Slovenian technology that is going to the moon. We want to, of course, carry on scientific activities. One of the beauties of being to be a full member of ESA is that you have access to their science program, which is reserved only for their full members. And this is an opportunity for academic institutions, but also equally for industry, because you need very cutting-edge payloads, sensors, to participate in these programs, which the industry can help develop. And then in the downstream, so the use of the data, we want to support the growth of space application businesses to truly unlock the value that the data from all these satellites bring. We want to work on an innovation procurement program, basically helping ministries beyond the ministry responsible for space to use space data and to use the Slovenian industry to help them make better policies. And then we also want to contribute to the creation of digital twin Earth. So a digital twin of Earth helps us understand many of the scientific research that is around climate change. And then we have a set of enablers. All these enablers are helping to support industry, helping to support innovation and startups, and helping to support the scientific community, for example, by supporting participation in international funding programs. And those that have applied for Horizon 2020, now Horizon Europe, know it's a very competitive process, need to have the right connections. Well, the Space Office can help building those connections because they're already talking to important players outside of Slovenia. Now, what does that mean in terms of budget? This is, of course, an ambitious strategy. That means we need an ambitious budget. Luckily, the annual budget has doubled at the last ministerial conference in 2022. So this is really an opportunity for Slovenian industry to strengthen their participation in the programs. And what it does, it brings Slovenia basically to the level of other comparable member states of ESA that we see. So it's playing a valid role within the sector, and even more importantly, it also has unlocked participation in new programs. For example, the telecommunications program has a satellite application support program called Business Applications, and Slovenia has also contributed to that, so new avenues in funding have been unlocked for industry. Now, in short, there is a public consultation. We've consulted many of you already, but you still might have comments, and we really want to encourage you to send us your comments. You can download the strategy. It's in Slovenian on the website of the government, and you have the email address there where you can send your comments to. The consultation ends on the 10th of May, after which we will consider all of your comments and publish the final version of the strategy. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Thomas. Now the floor is open for your questions and comments, and you can raise it in English or in Slovenian language. So please, don't be afraid, don't be shy. Maybe just to mention that we, as Thomas and Gordon already mentioned, that Slovenia is now participating in ESA programs in 5 optional programs. In Earth observation program, technology program, telecommunication program, human and robotic exploration, and in PRODEX program, it's a core scientific program. And with the full membership, we will also gain 2 programs within the mandatory program, and this will also help to the industry and academia to be more successful and competitive in the space market. And this strategy is also based on these programs. Yes, please.
Klasno, pa me zanima, ali so tudi kakšni že konkretni cilji, recimo kaj so 3 konkretni cilji, ki bodo 2040 dejansko stavili?
Ja, mi smo se zelo veliko pogovarjali o konkretnih ciljih in smo tudi primerjali druge vesoljske strategije in v bistvu nobena nima vključenih konkretno, tako kot so druge strategije. Zakaj? Ker se vesoljski sektor tako hitro spreminja. In dejansko smo v bistvu bolj targetirali na programe, ki so trenutno v okviru vesoljske agencije, v katerih so slovenska podjetja in znanstvena sfera izredno uspešni in bi nekako zasledovali ta cilj. Da bi pa bolj konkretizirani v smislu kdaj, kam, kako, pa se nismo za to odločili, ker se tudi druge države niso, druge strategije in nekako sledimo temu evropskemu vesoljskemu ekosistemu. Prosim, naslednji.
Pozdravljeni, moje ime je Marko iz Deresofta. Okay, I'll say it in English, yeah? I will address some challenges for our society, which is connected with the lack of engineers in our society. We have many opportunities in this technical field, and what the industry is doing now is the result of the educational process 20, 30 years ago, which was high level and, let's say, very demanding, making very good engineers. Overall, the quality level of the educational level is falling in the field of engineering. This is overall process, also accelerated by Bologna even more. And I'm asking what we should do on the educational field to stop this deterioration of educational field, because on PISA test, which is made by OECD for 15 years old people, Slovenia is on second lowest between 90 countries with joy index on this particular test. So the pupils in Netherlands are suffering even more. The pupils in Japan are suffering less on the process in Slovenia. So I hope from Ministry of Education is here, and this is the question: who will be our employee in company? Some, let's say, spots, which will put this further. We lack of right now, and 5 to 10 years from now, we will have a lack of engineers. On the other hand, China is producing a lot of them, and this is lack of engineers is a problem of whole Europe. And I'm asking myself how we will, let's say, ease this negative impact of joy on engineering educational field, and what we will do together as a society to foster them, because engineers in the last 20, 30 years were wiped out of the educational process. Everything what is going on the educational field is made and approved within one ministry. I'm very against it, and this is part of let's say, education which must be addressed, and much more impact of this inspirational field space, yeah, must be connected to education. Yeah, thank you.
Maybe just before giving the floor to Thomas, let me mention, yes, we are aware of this problem. And that's why we are establishing a SERO office in Slovenia this year, together with the Ministry for Education. And so this SERO office will help us, our community, to involve space in the kindergartens and in primary and secondary schools. So to get more knowledge about the space, what space can offer in the future also for the youngest. Maybe Thomas, you can add something.
No, I think when you look at ambitious space strategies, one of the key elements that you have to consider is there the absorption capacity of the industry to actually deliver on this additional budget and this additional demand for technology. And engineers play an important role. And in our analysis, we've seen that talent attraction is one of the areas that Slovenia is struggling with, and there's a bit of a brain drain. This is probably a wider question for the government, but what is important is that within the space strategy, we recognize this issue, and we try to contribute towards being part of the solution. Of course, the space strategy in itself will not solve STEM education at large. It's a problem that we see all across of Europe, But it can indeed help, with as Tanya mentioned, with stimulating already STEM education in primary and secondary schools, so that we have a larger influx of talent within STEM education. And when you have bigger numbers, you have a higher chance to have better qualified engineers and scientists coming out of them. So that's what we intend to do with the space strategy. But of course, as we mentioned, one of the programs is to work together with other ministries, with the academic sector, to see how space can contribute to achieving those goals.
Well, I have to on a short. Well, this is very good. The space in kindergarten is very good, but this is one seed. We have to prepare the soil, you know. And this is not the question to have very interesting things on a Lego robots with a space application. This is one fraction. We have to address what is going on in Slovenian educational. That we have between all OECD countries second index on mathematics, and I don't know what's the third, logic or something like that. This is the basic question. We will support with the charity and everything to have everything in kindergarten, but we have to address the soil. We will, it's a much broader and deeper, let's say, area which.
Thank you very much for this remark. On previous meetings with the space sector ecosystem, you already discussed the problem, and I totally agree that it's an overall problem. Of course, this strategy will be discussed also with ministries that are already present also here. Tanya mentioned the several programs that are a start, that would like to raise an ambition, an interest. So among those that we count on in the educational process of the next 20 years. As your company proves, with Catapult and its offices, of course also the industry have to invest into future engineers, experts in your industries. But yes, I totally agree that we have an overall problem, not only in Slovenia, but also in European scale. We have some other ideas how to attract pupils in secondary schools to decide for the STEM education programs. And as Thomas mentioned, the STEM promotion is actually one of the pillars that are already mentioned. We weren't that brave that we would promote first Slovenia and Austria, but we totally understand the logic that within this ambition, as Thomas mentioned, it's not only the question, okay, one of them will be chosen someday, but that a whole generation is prepared for this. And a lot of doctors, engineers, scientists embark on this mission, maybe not to land on the moon, on Mars, but to end on some very interesting and promising field of our space programs. But for sure, this strategy will not solve the issue by itself, and we have to work with other ministries and understanding that I think it was Professor Switter that mentioned this problem for several times now, and we're fully aware that we have to work hand in hand with other ministries to start solving the problem.
Maybe just to add that we have already started, as I mentioned, with the Zero project. We have to start somewhere. So I think the Zero project is really the best beginning. And we also established a space working group within the ministries. All ministries work in space. So we will definitely, at the next meeting, put this question on the table and start solving this problem.
completely aware that the space sector can be a spark. Yeah? And I would like to emphasize that it must be put even much more funding and time and energy in this field of education. Yeah. This is my fil rouge. Yeah? I'm not attacking the strategy. I would put 5 times more effort or 10 times more effort on the educational field than maybe you thought about.
Yes, but you have to be aware that we have to digest. We have to digest the budget, the industry, the academia, the space sector itself. We started, let's say, in 2016, 2017. So now it's only 6 years compared to other countries which are being space for several decades. So we have to keep this also in mind. Gordon?
I mean, I'd just like to make a comment on that. I mean, if you talk to school kids, I mean, nobody in school says, I want to be a high-frequency microwave signal processing engineer, or very few. If you want to inspire people to come into STEM, space is a really easy thing. I was on the plane coming up yesterday, and there's a mathematical Olympics in Portoroge today. So there was a whole bunch of kids and their tutors going up, and eventually say, what do you do? European space. Oh, brilliant! You know, what can we do as mathematicians for that? They've never made the connection, and you know, it's just, the connection it shouldn't be underestimated. That's one aspect of how you get people into STEM, is understanding what are the possibilities. The second one is these are very attractive people for everybody. So, you know, the financial services guys are going to be taking them out. Google, Amazon, everybody's taking these people out halfway through their PhDs or whatever. I think, you know, with a strategy that we have now, with making these connections, we can also go a little bit further and say, a lot of what we're doing in space, a lot of the analytics and things that the capabilities. I mean, Earth observation is very similar to medical imaging. It's very similar to seismic data processing. There's a whole bunch of things that are essentially the same sort of technical skills. With a small mass of people, how do we ensure flexibility? People can move from one sector to the other. Money is at immediate terms. We're building industry, building that flexibility. So nobody's up on Earth observation engineering or doing super resolution microscopy or whatever. You're able to do all of these things, and you're able to maintain this critical mass of people in attractive positions, and they're not being taken, or you're able to gaps that the financial services are taking out of the system once you've got them into the STEM, and they're not coming out the other side. So I think there's two things that you can address there in a much more comprehensive and structured way with the strategy than maybe what was possible up until now.
Thank you, Gordon. Any other comments? Yes, please.
Hello, I am a PhD student of international law, focusing on space law. I think maybe 3 or 4 people are dealing with in Slovenia. And my question is, how are you planning to implement maybe long-term sustainability guidelines in this strategy, or how to promote responsible space behavior of space sector, or achieving SDGs goals by using space applications? So do you have any concrete policies or something that we can also focus on? Or maybe also the zero debris approach that is now presented by ESA. So is this field like reserved for only ESA, or is Slovenia also turning towards this approach?
Thank you for the question. It's a very good question. So part of being green means for us as well being a responsible space actor. So one of the pillars is responsible space exploration, for example. What does that mean? We don't want, if we send equipment or components to Moon and Mars, we want to make sure we don't pollute with earthly viruses and bacteria and pollute those environments. But that also means space debris, for example. Having a sustainable approach to space means that you need to think about space debris. And so those elements are really embedded within the strategy already. In terms of SDG goals and sustainable or the parts that are around climate change and using space for sustainable goals, of course, have impact on SDG goals such as food security, access to water, and these kind of things. So a clear link to the SDG goals we have not made within the strategy. They all contribute, of course, to these goals. It's maybe an interesting exercise, since you're a PhD student, to actually look into what are the impact of this strategy on the different SDG goals. And in terms of broadening a space law, I think probably it's best to wait on the European Union initiative. They recently announced they're thinking of a EU space law, and because so even the big countries don't always have a space law. Germany doesn't have a space law as such. So I don't think there's a need to expand the space law that Slovenia has at this point in time, given the evolution that there is now on an international level to do that, in fact, jointly. But these are indeed very important aspects.
Any other questions, remarks? Just raise your hand.
We have managed now to prepare a space microphone. So I'm coming from University of Ljubljana, mechanical engineering, and also from Rural Power Institute Novo Mesto, and I'm very active in supercomputing domain in Slovenia. So HPC or supercomputing has been mentioned several times today. So I can say that we are very active, but space is almost not at all present in our debates. So I just wonder how we can contribute. You know, we are active in other domains, and we have quite many competencies, but we just don't know how to approach to space. So we can offer infrastructure, a lot of knowledge that is needed to run this big computing infrastructure. So how can we contribute to this area? So probably the answer is not easy, but I'm also available later on for discussions.
Yes, thank you. So let me mention, when we started in 2016, we had around 40 participants, 40 contacts on the list. Now we have more than 200. So it's also for us, it's very difficult to search for all of you who are dealing with space. So we urge you to contact us, to come to our offices, to call us, send us email. We have a special space email at the ministry. So we are open for discussions, for everything. So please just feel free to come, and we will, yeah.
Also, I believe Tanya and Slovenian Space Office is planning events in the following months, focused on future players in the space sector, so that together with the existing players, the new can join the programs and explore opportunities.
Maybe if you send a request to my colleague, to Mitka Urbas, that you would like to be on the list, and we are then circulating all the reports and what's going on in space in Slovenia and in EU, on the EU level and other levels as well. Any other comments? We have also a French ambassador here. In June, we have a space business delegation to Toulouse. We would like also to enhance cooperation with the French space agency CNES and other actors. We have now a meeting with Thales Alenia Space in May in the SpaceTec premises of ESA. Then we are also a part of requesting party activities. This is a special program within ESA that help us to be more competitive, especially when we become a full membership. And in June, we are organizing this event also with ESA. Then in October, we are planning a big event with a human and robotic exploration part, with the technology part of ESA. And we are also having events with the Ministry for Education. So you are all invited also to raise your comments there. Anything else? I think. And also we have outreach event, yes, in October. So, and in the meantime, hopefully we will adopt it, the strategy. Any other? Yeah.
When I'm thinking where we have been 8 years ago, yeah, we were really near to zero. And when I'm seeing now what you and we all together achieved on this field, I have to say that I'm more than impressed. And this is proof how high government officials with industry on a such small spot and high-tech spot can make really big thing. And we can inspire someone else also in Slovenia with, let's say, equivalent hotspots on a technology field to make such huge steps to excellence, really excellence. We are talking about excellence here. Every 2 minutes we are talking about excellence. What is really excellence is to reach the sky and you are admired by ESA, NASA, or I don't know who. And you put all those cubes together in one thing which I'm really proud of, and your energy you're putting in, not only to the strategies and so, but for contacts which we are not able to make, is something we really appreciate. You cannot imagine how much. Thank you very much. 100 times.
Thank you, Marco. We are just enjoying the ride, I can say. But it's also my team. I would like to thank to Metka, to Anton, and to Sabina. We are really, I think, State Secretary could confirm this, that we are really not good, one of the best team, and I'm really proud of them. And please give them also a big applause.
That's why we started some organizational changes. The establishment of the Slovenian Space Office is the first step. Now we have to fulfill our promise to provide, also to empower the office with additional staff. Tanya needs, because all the team is really working very hard, and from mornings to the evenings, with international events and visits every week. And the second, Thomas mentioned the figures. Yes, we doubled our subscriptions last year, but we know, for example, if you compare our contributions with Czech Republic, you can see that the Czechs are leading with annual subscriptions in amount of 60 million euros. If you compare that, okay, there are, let's say, several times larger nation, but similar GDP per capita. It means that we have to double our subscriptions in order to achieve the tempo of Czech Republic. And as you also see, the Czech Republic is not highest ranking country on that list. We have a political devotion to do so, but also what we need to do is to raise the capacity of the ecosystem to use these subscriptions. And that's why the outreach program, the strong and evolved work with ecosystem is so important for us.
Yep. Maybe some other question? Not related to space? Maybe just to mention that we also are continuing discussions with the Italian Space Agency. We signed this letter of intent. On this basis, we have now 2 meetings behind us, and we would like also to organize maybe now a business delegation to Italy, directly to these big space integrators, and this is also our focus. And we would also like to enhance cooperation with Germany, and we are talking to, I talked to my Irish colleague last month also to have kind of visit, maybe Irish delegation to Slovenia, so we are discussing. But it will be you who will also decide to whom we should approach and in what way. Yeah. So if there are no questions, I would like to thank you all. You are, may I say in Slovene, because it's now, zdaj imamo pač ta potek, da imamo strategijo objavljeno. Maja vas prosimo za kakršnekoli, kako? Za pripombe, komentarje, ki ne bodo pač aktivni, pa v omejitvah, ki jih imamo. So I would like to thank you all again and have a nice day. Thank you.